Jetfliegerei in Österreich. MFC Interro-Fans, wo alle diese Piloten herkommen und das Flugzeug sind. Natürlich der Morbitzer Edi, aber jetzt in der Luft Captain Franz Höllinger. So, liebe Fotografen, zückt eure Kameras. Ein tiefer Überflug. Ganz bitte so. Und wieder kommt sie herein. Ganz tief. Unwahrscheinlich. Und jetzt durch die Komfort ein in den langen Endanflug. Ja. Die Landeklappen ausgefahren. Höchste Konzentration für den Piloten. Wahnsinn, ein bisschen Schuss bitte noch.
I'm Dave Powers and I'm into RC airplanes. And if you've clicked on this video, you probably are too, or at least want to get into RC airplanes. For those of us bitten by the flying bug, RC airplanes give us the feeling of fun, freedom, and accomplishment. And today, with the breakthrough of lithium battery technology, new durable foam, and smaller, more dependable electronics, the days of part-by-part balsa building that take months are over. That's right. If you know what you're doing, you can have an RC plane in the air by next weekend. With these new durable RC planes, this means that you can be flying year-round. You can fly at a local park. You can fly in your backyard. We even see a lot of guys flying on their lunch break. How do you like that? So why haven't you gotten into RC planes before? Is it because you think that it's too complicated, too expensive, or too hard? Because it's not. Are you afraid that you're going to buy the wrong parts, crash your plane the first time, and be out a few $100? That's a valid concern. But I'm here to tell you, if you have the right knowledge, the right education, you can be flying a park jet really fast. Let me give you some examples of normal people that have done just that. 10-year-old Evelyn was struggling to fly her first RC plane. She stumbled across our work, followed just a few of our pro tips, then got the right beginner plane and took it out and flew it the first time. Now her and her dad Tony enjoy flying RC planes together. 18-year-old Davis came across our work. He took the knowledge and got into experimental designs himself. He's constructed and flown several of his own builds now. He's had so much fun doing it, he's now off to college to study aeronautical engineering. 40-year-old Billy D found our work years ago, got into RC planes, got the hang of it real fast, so much so that he now flies the large-scale jets. That's right, the big boys. You see, when you know how to do this right, you can accelerate through the learning process. What takes most people months, or in my case, years, you can literally do in days. But you have to know the master steps how to do it. Now, I mentioned it took me 2 years to learn how to fly RC. Now, this is back in the 90s. I spent every weekend and days after school out on the field trying to learn to fly, and I couldn't get the hang of it. My problem was the same that most guys run into, and that is orientation. Plane would take off and be okay, but once it was coming at me, left was right and right was left, and I'd always turn the wrong way and roll over and crash, and that would be it. I was down at the hobby shop so much, they gave me a job there. And it was finally getting under the tutelage of expert RC guys that they started to reveal to me the pro tips that they follow. That's when I started to learn to fly. We then started showing others how to build and design planes on our videos on YouTube. That built into the largest RC YouTube channel. We have a forum now with thousands of members. I've now devoted a large part of my life teaching and showing other people how to get into this RC hobby. So here are the 3 biggest mistakes everyone makes getting into RC. Number 1, they buy the wrong plane. What happens is they get suckered into a deal that's too good to be true. It has an amazing scale plane. Usually it's a jet. If they can get it together, they take it off, fly it, crash it, smash it, it's done. Can't repair it. Even if they could, the plane is too unstable to learn how to fly on. You gotta think like riding a bike. You gotta build that mind-muscle connection. You gotta think real pilots go through a lot of training to learn how to fly. These RC planes are trickier to learn to fly than real planes because of the orientation issue. Plus, they're much faster and much squirrelier than a full-size plane, so your reaction time needs to be much higher. So you need to have a plane that is built for that can take the crashes, is stable on the turns, and has its motor and electronics protected, so when you do crash, it can get up and fly again. And if it breaks, it needs to be field repairable. There's not a lot of planes that meet these specifications, so you got to make sure you have one of those. Number 2 is guys get the wrong parts. They'll usually cheap out on the radio controller, so the radio doesn't have a rudder, it doesn't have a throttle control, it doesn't have 2.4 gigahertz, so it's not very dependable frequency. And what happens is they're now under controlling the plane, and the plane goes out of control and crashes. Best case scenario, they have a successful flight with their cheap radio and their beginner plane. Now they want to fly another plane. They have to buy a whole nother radio. They got to buy a whole nother set of chargers and batteries and everything else. So now they're buying their electronics, they're buying their parts twice. You don't want to do that. You want to take the investment of buying the right parts and the right radio the first time, so your parts are interchangeable with your beginner planes as well as your intermediate and advanced planes. That's how we do it. That's how everyone else does it. Number 3, you have to be educated. You have to have preferably somebody at your local field show you all the little things you got to do. And I'm talking there are hundreds of micro decisions you have to make. What hole on the push rod does your clevis go on? What are the 3 speed control wires do? How do you know if this battery is right for your plane? What kind of propeller should go on your motor? You get the wrong one, the motor overheats and burns out that fast. How do all the controls go? What is up, down, left, right? How much throws do you need? LiPo batteries can be a little dangerous if you don't know how to use them. How do you charge them? How do you balance them? How do you get the most out of your money? These aren't hard things at all. There's just hundreds of them, and you have to know how to do every one. Picture a real pilot. What does he do before he leaves? He walks around his plane and does a flight check. He has a list. He knows what he's doing. You have to know what you're doing. So in summary, if you want to be flying by next weekend for pennies on the dollar, invest in the right plane, the right parts for the long run, maximize your fun, freedom, flying, and sense of accomplishment, you've got to know what plane to start with, what parts to get for it, how to make it all work. It's really that simple. Now, like I said, your ideal situation is you find somebody in your town that is into RC and that can mentor you through this like my mentors did for me. If you don't have anyone in your town, there's a lot of resources online, but that's
Tant pis. Je fais le tour et je reviens.
Ouais, ça y est. Pas mal.
Celui-là, il était bien.
Oui.
Tu l'as eu?
Celui-là, je l'ai eu.
Cool. En fait, ils sont conçus comme des bateaux rapides. Là. La coque, elle a une forme spéciale. Raté l'atterrissage. Chie complètement. Pas trop.